It's not always easy to know when to stay in a company and when to leave. Most of the time, sales reps want to leave companies because they are causing harm to the company, not because they don't like the product, not because they can't hit their targets, but because they aren't hitting their targets. So, we're going to explore why you'd want to leave and also when you should stay and when you should leave just based on the stats. When should you leave a sales role? Because there are sales roles which I wouldn't recommend doing, especially at different levels of experience. Whenever you're newer, you should be hopping on roles that are more structured. They have a clear script, they have a clear process, they have clear KPIs. There's other sales reps who are succeeding, and you have a path to make money, right? That's pretty easy. But whenever you're more experienced, you can do things like we always think, oh man, when I'm more experienced, I'm only going to get, the most structured roles, which, yes, a lot of the times those make a lot of money. But sometimes you can get into management whenever you get into younger companies. And if it has a really good product, if you can get into management, then you might get a chunk of the company. And long term, it means more income. So it depends on what your goals are and what your interests are. But for the most part, whenever you are in a sales role, salespeople will want to leave a sales role because they aren't doing dials when they should be. They are not communicating with the team how they should be. They are starting to withdraw because of all the harm they're causing in the business. Every single day that you go in and you don't make dials, it weighs on you. So that weight gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and you're like, man, it's just painful to work here. It's hard to get up in the morning to work here. And the only reason, and you're drained of energy during the day, and the only reason is because everybody's almost finding out about how you aren't doing your job. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but you get triggered, or if you've ever gotten like tired whenever you're talking about a subject that's close to an area where you're causing harm, like dials, and they're like, yeah, I'm not hitting my targets, but blah 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 blah, and you get tired during the conversation, or you get triggered, or you get worried that they're going to find out that you didn't make dials the previous day, or you had 2 calls on your calendar and you didn't hit any follow-ups, or you only hit follow-ups, but you didn't work for another like 4 hours. So then you're wasting time when you know that they could hire somebody who would work 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and they'd outperform you, not because they have more skills than you, but because they're just doing their job. And because of that, it'd technically be more ethical for you to be fired and for them to hire someone else. So you'll put yourself in worse and worse situations, especially financially. You'll fuck up your own finances, so you have a reason to leave. That's not, I'm not performing. You'll say something like, well, I'm not making the money I want here, or this isn't what I expected. And it's usually followed by a long string of you not doing your job. So if you're leaving a sales role because of that, and it could be a perfectly good sales role, and you're wanting to leave, but it's like an ethical company and they have a good product and they have good marketing, I'll tell you, you better give me a call so we can handle that wrongdoing, because you're about to throw away an amazing opportunity. And sales reps throw away amazing opportunities all day long because of this, because they have mounting wrongdoing against the company, and it makes them feel guilty, and then they leave. Because why would you, if you robbed a bank, you'd run away from the bank. So if you're robbing the company of resources, all the coaching you're getting for free, all the managing you're getting for free, and you're not producing in the company as much as you know you should be, why wouldn't you leave? You're screwing up the company by being there. They could have a better guy in there. So that's handleable. You can actually clean that up and clean up your act and start hitting targets. You don't have to leave a role and start fresh, because you and I both know if you start fresh, you're going to do the same thing in the next role. And it's been a habit where you get into a role, you perform really well, and then you slowly trickle downwards. And it has nothing to do with your skills. And you keep buying more trainings to make your skills better, because instead of putting in hard work, you're hoping by having a skill where you close 100% of calls, then you'll be a valuable person instead of just being somebody who does their work. you keep trying to upskill and upskill and upskill, but you don't do any volume. And that wastes money on your training that you get, because when you do volume, that's how you practice the training. So you buy this training, you don't do hundreds of dials a day in between the calls that are on your calendar, and then you waste money. You waste your money that you spent on the training, because what the fuck is the purpose? For 2 calls a day, you're going to buy more sales training for 2 calls a day? That's stupid. And 2 calls a day is generous. Whenever you do in-person sales, I used to do merchant services, and they'd deliver me 2 qualified leads a day. And I'd hop in my car, I'd drive over there with my notepad, and I had a whole binder and everything, and I'd show up and I'd talk to them. I'd say, hey, let's look at some merchant services for your company. Let's see what you're doing. And I'd go through the whole rigmarole there. And then I'm expected to, like, if I want to make more money, I go dial, or I go door knock. I go talk to all the business owners in the area while I'm in that area. That would be the reasonable thing to do. Then the next time I come, I can visit all the business owners again. And I'm acting like a business owner, right? Because I'll tell you, if you run a business, it doesn't get easier. It doesn't. You still have to do high amounts of volume of outreach. You still have to post content, which whenever you are a closer or a setter, you should be doing email content and having some kind of content that's nurturing your prospects whenever you're not texting or calling them. And it's the same. You're going to have the same workload, and then you'll want to leave sales to start a business because you're not doing your job as a sales rep. Or you'll want to get into CSM, or you'll want to get into, some other role in the company like operations. When in reality, you just keep failing yourself and failing the companies you work with as a sales rep, and you keep being subpar. That's why people leave sales roles. It is very rarely because they get a better opportunity. Because if you do the math, in nearly any company you are in, there's a great quote in the book Sales Management Simplified. And in Sales Management Simplified, he's like, a good sales rep is somebody who works the comp plan. So instead of you going in and reverse engineering your numbers, which I have a tool for, if you comment below here, and actually don't comment below here, I can't fucking message you on YouTube, I don't think. Message me on Facebook and give me a hashtag self-management, and I'll send this over to you. But in the numbers porn section of that, you can actually reverse engineer all your targets in your business or in your sales role. And instead of saying, oh, nobody on this team can hit targets that I want to hit, you say, how can I hit the targets I want to hit on the team? How can I, if the top guy's making 16, how can I make 24 if that's what I want to make here? I have a great offer. I have a great product. I have a great team. I have a great CRM. I have everything I need to succeed. So now let me do my fucking job as the sales rep and calculate what I got to do to hit my targets, and stop relying on my sales manager or my sales daddy coach boy to tell me what to do. And instead, let me take it upon myself to plan out my own goals and hit them. That's what most sales reps don't do either. They don't know how to reverse engineer their targets. So they go into roles thinking they can't hit their targets when they totally can, but it requires more work and more volume. And then they go into roles and they don't hit the more work and more volume because their real intention was never to work hard in the first place. Their real intention was to gain status by making money, because that's what they saw in the ads. This doesn't apply to everybody. But a lot of the time, it doesn't apply to the family guys I meet, but to like the younger, like 20, 30-year-olds who are still single and want to travel the world. They see some guy in some nice car making a lot of money with a nice watch, and they think, man, I want other people to see me with a nice watch and a nice car so they can think that I'm the man. And that's what they think. And that's what's called an other intention. They aren't getting into sales because they want to have a noble job that they work hard at, where they go home and they feel proud of themselves. They don't give a fuck about working hard. They care about having other people see them. It's like when broke people buy Gucci so that way people can see them owning Gucci and think that they're wealthy. It's the most ghetto thing you can do. So you got all these ghetto hedonistic sales babies running around the industry setting the standard because some of them get on really, really good offers and make really, really good money. And some of them have no ethics. So they'll sell things that sell like hotcakes, but harm people, like OnlyFans management or AI OnlyFans and stuff like that. Like they'll just sell anything. So they don't care. They have no sense of ethics. If you sell drugs, you can make billions of dollars because there's plenty of people hooked on them already. It doesn't mean you should sell them, right? So for the people who have some level of ethics, this video is for you. So how do you vet a good role? Well, you vet a good role by what's the product? Can you verify testimonials? Can you get into contact with the testimonial people? And if a company says no, why not? Why can't I talk to happy customers? Like, I would be curious. Even really large companies won't do this, so don't get too alarmed. It's a red flag in general, but it's not necessarily a red flag that, is a deal breaker. But I'd get into communication with the successful people. I'd see, okay, cool. They are telling me they have a 100% success rate. I call bullshit. If it's 92 or 86, I'm still happy with that. That means whenever I'm on a call with somebody, I say, you got an 86% chance of winning. So you just got to bet on yourself to win, right? And then I can be honest with people whenever they buy. I used to do that all the time. I'd say, I think it was like 92% of people who work with us make money in their e-com store. How much money they make is up to them. When they quit is up to them. We are here to just facilitate you winning. So whether or not you win is up to you because of your intention. And I'd say things like that because it's really them betting on themselves when it's like biz op. If you're selling like business coaching services or branding or anything like that, that stuff's really easy to vet because like you're going to have all big ass testimonials, but sometimes they let the small guys fall through the cracks. So you might get people who didn't pay 50 grand and like the 50 grand testimonials are out front, but the people who paid like 8 grand and didn't get as best the results, those might be hidden. So you've got to do some investigating on the testimonials. You got to find out what the real truth is behind it. How many clients have they had versus how many gave a testimonial? How many clients they've had versus how many got the promised result? What is the promised result in writing? What exactly are they promising? Like if they came to work with you and they said, yes, we will help you build a e-commerce store to $2,000 a month. Number one, I would sell that all day because that sounds super realistic. I'm like, dude, let's sell the fuck out of that, right? That sounds great. Versus somebody who's like, yeah, we're going to guarantee 10 or 15 grand a month, but only half of the people hit it. I'd rather have it be more likely to hit it so that way I can sell it with conviction. So that's one thing. I definitely do that. So verify testimonials. The other thing you need to do is you need to check their stats. They're going to be reluctant to tell you this stuff too, but you need to get access to their stats tracking. Again, the self-management system that I have, you can plug in the conversion rates of a company you're thinking of getting hired by, like their close rate, their show rate, their due rate, all that kind of stuff. And you plug it in and it will show you exactly the amount of effort you'll have to put in to hit your targets. And if you're a closer, it'll show you the amount of effort that a setter would have to put in for you to hit your targets. So then you can see how many setters do they need for me to hit my targets. Wow, they need 3 doing 300 dials a day. Well, that's kind of rough. So then you can play around with the numbers a little bit. If I improve my show rate by 3% or my close rate by 10% or whatever, you can play around with it. But at the end of the day, if the numbers don't show that you can hit your targets, they got some talking to do. Otherwise, there's no reason to hang out and stay unless they have recently had a much higher return on ad spend and a much higher set of quality leads, in which case it might be worth it. So you have to investigate against the data. Is there any new data? Against the numerical data, is there any anecdotal data to suggest that there's any chance that you'd be able to hit your targets there. You should find out how much the average rep is making, how much the top rep is making, how much the bottom rep is making for the role you're going for. You should ask about what other kind of opportunities are there for you to increase your commission and to get promotions. And you should ask about expected effort, right? Now, it doesn't mean you should lower your effort. If you're getting into a sales role and you know you should be doing 6 hours or more of money generating activities every day, then do the 6 hours even if they don't require it. But it also tells you something about the company and what kind of management they're running. If they say something like, I don't care what you do, as long as you hit your targets, great. That sounds good. If they're like, well, we're going to ramp up and see how you do, and then we'll kind of figure out what your KPIs are and that, boo. They don't know what they're talking about, at least from my perspective. They should be able to tell you, here's your exact KPIs. Here's how many dials you're likely going to need to make to hit the income targets you want, and also the cash targets we require from you. Also, if they're measuring you as a setter and they're not measuring you just on showed qualified calls and on cash and deals and revenue, and they're measuring you on something else, like total dials, stupid. I saw a team, they were doing okay. It's a very good team, ran by a very well-known guy. And they were like, yeah, we're going to do 5 booked calls or 100 dials. Well, then if I hit 100 dials in a day, I can end my day and I have 0 calls booked. So they're not actually prioritizing the end outcome, which is cash and deals. And if you're working for a team that is not prioritizing cash and deals as the target of both the setter and the closer, then you're working for the wrong company. They don't know how to lead, right? It should be showed qualified calls. And then your leading indicator to that is dials. And then the leading indicator for a closer should be offers made every day. So if they can't get in, let's say 5 offers that they need from you, they have to go dial and just pitch people from dials because they have to hit their offers. This is how you hit targets. It's based on, okay, if I need 5 offers to get 1 deal a day and I'm shooting for 1 deal a day, then I make 5 offers. I didn't hit a deal today, but I did 5 offers. Let's see if I can get 2 more offers in. Because then that'll give me 7 follow-ups in the future that could potentially buy. And then on average, my stats will even out over the long term. So things like this, if they aren't managing based on that, and they're managing based on some other pie in the sky thing, I don't know what the fuck else how they're going to do. If they kick you out immediately because you didn't hit targets one day, that's reasonable, but it might be a bit extreme. If they let you continue to let your stats go down, I mean, you'd have to be in the role, but if you can see that people have their stats going down consistently, like you should ask, what's your worst guy and how long has he been performing poorly and what's his trend? And if his trend's like this, then I would ask if they even know how to manage a guy to get his trend from this to this. Because if they don't, the thing is, you might be downtrend for a while. And unless you know how to manage yourself, which I teach inside of my program, wink, wink, hint, hint. If you don't know how to manage yourself, then you'll have to hope that your manager knows what he's doing. And a lot of the times they don't. They're managing based off of how their manager managed them, and they're managing based off of really good manager training programs, but they don't always know how to manage based off of statistics. And then that's what you should look for. And also, are you interested in the product? I've always found that if I'm interested as a client of the product and I go through the product myself, like building an e-com store or like going through business coaching, then I sell it much better. So I would highly recommend you only sell things that you yourself are interested in, because why else would you be selling it if you're not even interested in it? How can you get excited about it? So that's what I'd look for. Now, how do you know when to leave an offer? Well, a lot of the times, for instance, if you weren't making sales and they continued putting marketing in and they were giving you quality leads, and the company is tanking because you're not making sales, well, you're about to tank that company. So if I was you, I would get your stats up so you don't tank the company. But if they can't seem to figure out marketing, for instance, there was a time I was selling e-commerce coaching, and the issue we had is that every January for e-commerce biz op, we this is where knowing market trends helps. Every January for biz op, stats go down, and they went down so bad that January that they let go of the entire sales team. The entire sales team. Which was 2 people. So it wasn't very big, but we were doing about 100 to 200 probably. My best month was like 90 as a closer there. I don't know if it was 90 in cash or 90 in revenue. It was probably revenue. And it was decent, right? It was a very good offer. Our success rate was maybe around 30%. I forgot exactly what the success metric was, but the people who were running the company really cared about getting people results and would put in a lot of extra effort to ensure that they did. So I liked working there because then I could express that to anybody I was talking to. I don't know if the success rate was 30%. I think the success rate in the industry was 30% or less, maybe 10%, 15%, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it was a decent offer. I found some things that were good about the offer, and I kept selling there. But the market trend tanked the cost of acquisition, meaning it was too expensive for them to acquire a customer. They'd have to pay us commission, and they'd have to pay for marketing, and it was too expensive. Now, looking back, now I'm going to give you more context to analyze this even more. We didn't dial and we didn't follow up. So were we dialing and were we following up, then we probably wouldn't have tanked the business. And that's a red flag that I could have spotted early on by asking, do you guys dial your leads? How much do you follow up? Do you have any systems for that? Blah, 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 blah. And in doing so, I could have avoided hopping on an offer that would eventually tank, because from everything I've heard from marketing, no matter what you do, your cost of acquisition is slowly going to go up over time. So you have to increase your LTV, or your cost per lead is going to go up over time. So what do you have to do? You have to make the best out of every lead. So if you're not dialing every lead and they're getting wasted, then the company's expenses will only start to increase over time, and then they won't be able to afford to operate. So this is like, whenever you're in sales, you have to understand some stuff about business, because I could have foreseen that they would tank themselves, or I could have offered advice, say, hey, can we set up some follow-up systems? I'd love to dial some leads. And then obviously I become a much more valued person on the team, and then I can get self-set commission and that sort of thing. So then, and then maybe I get manager roles. So I go in and I start solving problems. But if there's problems in the company that you don't know how to solve, and they're a red flag, I'd probably look somewhere else. Probably, maybe. It depends on the actual problem. And when it comes to marketing problems, as a sales rep, you don't always know what the marketing problem they have is and what the potential solution is and what the likelihood of them solving it is. So a good rule of thumb is to find out how many leads they're generating per day ahead of time. But if you're not generating a lot of leads, or the leads that you're getting are genuinely unqualified, you either get them to switch the marketing quickly, or you got to leave, because you can't let your income and finances go down. You can't go down with the company. Basically, if you're ever in a company, your stats should be going like this and their stats should be going like this. But if they aren't, and yours start to go like this because the companies start to go like this, you need to grab them and pull them back up. That's your responsibility. Otherwise, you don't get an income, and you'll blame the company and you'll say, oh, well, they had poor marketing or blah, 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 blah. But no, you could have done something about it, but you didn't. Okay? A lot of times people say, well, that's not my job. Well, it is your job to ensure that you make money. And if somebody else is failing at their job, like in marketing, I used to talk to my marketing guys all day long. In my last 2 offers I was in, I talked to the marketing guys at least 2 or 3 times a week on one of them. And one of them was daily, because he was the owner and he ran his own marketing, or at least he did his own copy and creatives. So in those scenarios, like, you get the scoop, and then you can make suggestions. And I made suggestions that increased the profitability of the company by a lot, like almost doubled the profitability of one of the companies. And then I become valuable, and then obviously looked at for management and that sort of thing because I have good ideas. But if you don't have the creativity to solve the problem, or you don't want to take responsibility for it, which you should, a real tough, smart guy would take responsibility for it. But if you aren't going to, then that's probably the time to jump ship because your income's going down. And you can always go back. You could say, "Hey, man, I can't handle this. I'm seeing 2 months of downtrend. I don't see it going up anytime soon. But can I come back if your stats start going back up? You guys can invite me back." You can always have that conversation. Because also you got to think they'd have the burden of paying you and feeding you and ensuring you're doing well, and it might be less burden if you leave for a little while and come back. Like, not saying that's what you should do all the time. But if you really can't solve it and the ship's going down, there's no reason to go down with the ship. As noble as it sounds, sacrificing yourself out of loyalty, it would be better if you cause things to go well out of loyalty, not to cause yourself to die out of loyalty. So when to leave it's a gray area because it depends. Like I have a friend, they keep generating shit leads. One of my clients, he's on 2 offers. One of his offers keeps generating shit leads. And it's because it's an e-com offer, and they're probably in the language targeting too poor of people. So if I was in there, I could say, "Hey, you're targeting too poor of people. Look at the language in your ad and look at the people we're receiving. Just change the language a little bit, and then we can get higher quality people." But he might not know that. He's going to learn. But if you don't know that, then you can't know, and it's just kind of like, it's one of those, it's above my pay grade sort of things. It's out of my hands. You could talk to Claude about it. You could run your marketing through Claude. You could run the strategy that they're using through Claude and have it analyze it and see what the holes are and talk with Claude. I do that quite often. And see if there's anything you can do to improve. Maybe deliver them a report of improvements they could make. I've done that before. They got really pissed when I did that because I was brand new, and I shouldn't have been saying any of that stuff. But if you've been there a while and you know that there's some problems, go fix them. But if you can't, then it's okay to jump ship. Just don't do it so often, and don't do it because you aren't doing your job. If you're working 8 hours a day, busting your ass as the sales rep, and you're still not making the money you want, and it's not a mindset issue, and it's not a money issue, and it's just an offer issue, then that's when the offer makes sense. But if you're busting your ass and it is a mindset issue, that's where you come to somebody like me, right? Or if you have skill issues, but you're experienced, then I get rid of the mental blocks that keep you from applying the skills. That would be the appropriate thing to do. But if you're with them and you have the skills and you have enough mindset to do decent, and you still can't do it, no matter what you do, either you're solving the wrong problem or the problem could be marketing. And marketing is a tough thing to do. It requires a lot of skill and know-how. So it might take them a while before they figure it out. So I would have copious conversations with them. If you can't resolve it, I'd say hop off. I've had to do that with 2 offers. At least 1 offer. I had 1 offer. It was all cold outreach on Facebook. And he was too scared to take sales calls. And he was like, he couldn't handle people. He was just too afraid. And I'm like bossing him around. I'm like, man, I can't do this. Like, I came here because I wanted some leadership. I wanted to have somebody who's, coaching me and helping me. That's a totally appropriate time to leave too. If the leadership can't lead, leave. Because you're just going to undermine leadership all day long. Even if you have the best of intentions, they might have 0 leadership. So you'll be like, there's nothing to undermine, but it's just, that's when you should leave. It's kind of like when there's no hope, right? I don't think there's any other times it makes sense to leave if you don't like the product, if the product's unethical, if you're selling something that doesn't really help people. Like I had a guy, he's like, yeah, we make AI models. And I'm like, what kind of models? And he's like, well, like influencers and then also like adult models. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, you're going to pull in bad things in your life if you're selling something unethical. That's selling porn to people who are porn addicted is like selling alcohol to people who are addicted to alcohol. You're a poison dealer, right? So there's some other unethical type offers, but they aren't as bad as that. That's the worst one that I think is in the market right now, that I'm aware of. So if you're not selling that, for the most part, you should be doing all right. So you should have good ethical offers. So if they get results and they got to marketing and the problem's you, then you should stay because they're willing to tolerate you being shit until you get good. And that's a lot of like empathy that they have for you, right? They're really pouring into you. So you better get your fucking act together and not screw this up. Because it's actually, it's not difficult to find good offers, but it's really difficult to find great offers. Like I know a bunch of guys with great offers and they manage them, but that's like, out of all the people who I know who manage offers, that's maybe like a grand total of 100 good offers, maybe 50. I don't know. There's got to be maybe like 200, 300 good offers in the market. I've only seen one personally, which was with Mark Lack, which is like huge marketer, huge ad spend, huge following. And it's 10 sales calls a day. And I'm like, set me up on that. I got my friend on that one. I'm like so jealous. I should have sold on it. And it's things like this. It's like, if you get a chance to sell for one of those guys, it's going to be very high octane, very high standards. And if you look at the standards that you currently have right now, and if you attract what you are, would your standards attract the kind of offer you really want to have? And if not, then you need to fix your standards because you'll just screw up any good offer you hop on anyway. So, and I'm pointing this back to you, the sales rep, because the majority of the time it's not actually the company. A lot of the time it is. But in all the instances where I'm talking to people, unless it's poor management or poor marketing, it's the rep. And I do think people blame marketing far more than they should, because a good sales rep with a good product used to go door to door. He'd drive around, he'd dial, he'd send letters in the mail, he'd leave his business card everywhere. He'd do anything he could to get that deal done because he fucking loved his product. And then there's people who are like, they got the greatest product in the world and they're just sitting here saying, please feed me, daddy. Please give me more leads, please. I can't do it. And then you take your umbilical cord from your sales coach and you plug it into you and he tells you what to say. And then it's just all day long. And that's how most people operate in sales in the online sales space. And that's why they fail, is they're waiting for people to feed them and they can't think for their own. So they have to have their sales coaches and everybody else tell them what to say and think. And that's why it's difficult for them to perform. And then they don't do what they should be doing. So then they want to leave. It's not rocket science, guys. There isn't some hidden trap door where there's all the great offers. No, all the great closers get the great offers. And if you're not attracting the great offers that you want, then I would become a great closer or a great salesperson and stop thinking about setter, closer, fill my calendar, whose responsibility is it? No, you take responsibility for everything. You fill your calendar if it's not full. If you got a great offer and great marketing, you sell until your voice is lost every single day. That's really how you ought to be selling. Not, how do I do it with the least amount of discomfort possible? That's not what you were hired for. Sales is a high octane, high intensity performance sport. It is not, like you've seen in the ads, it is not this loosey-goosey, you get 3 calls in your calendar and 1 closes each day and you make $1,000 every day. It is not that most of the time, unless you have phenomenal marketing and phenomenal management. And even with the management out, the management doesn't have to be good. You just have good marketing, right? And good mindset too. You will screw up, lay down deals if you have a bad mindset. So, if there's anything else you guys need from me, let me know. Reach out to me with a hashtag self-management. I'll send over the self-management system. Other than that, I'll talk to you next time.